All right. And I think that is everything working. Well, not 100%. Just triple check again. Here, am I receiving data? Hmm. Okay, so some delay on the voice. That's something I'll just have to live with. Fine. So probably not spread on Twitter at all. All right. Okay. So today I am going to be working on a couple of apps that I've been putting off too long and I really want to finish. And these are GPT based apps. Um, the first one is a podcast, it's a fairy tale generator where the input is going to be um, a fairy tale, classic fairy tale. And then, gosh, so yeah, we can have an original fairy tale. And then we're going to give it some prompts to make it fit into a specific podcast style. And that is turning into a podcast script, preferably in Norwegian. We'll see. So this is the first one. Now the reason I'm building this one is that this is a app that I'm actually in the need of. So that's a good reason to start it. No, I'm not. I didn't even see there were people here. Hey, Lasse. Um, here you go. So I thought I was just speaking into the void for now, which is why I didn't start sharing my screen or anything. So, yeah, I have a workspace for different, hi, different excuse me, GPT-based apps at the moment. I have well, this is a snowflake method for book writing. Hi, David. So this is a very impromptu session. So I'm very happy you stopped by. I'm going to just keep it light. If you have any questions or input, let's just have a chat as well. We could even jump over into a meeting if someone has something super interesting to say. But like inside this is like my app, a workspace at the moment where one of my tactics for supercharging growth in Tana is just every time a an AI influencer posts something like a cool like series of prompts they do in GPT or this new tool that's $30 a month, which in reality is just another wrapper for GPT with a nice UI. I try and just build it in Tana in 5 minutes and then send it to them and say, hey, this is your cool prompt. Thanks for the great idea. I built it in Tana. You should check it out. And so that kind of became an inspiration for me to make these GPT apps that are super simple, just solve a simple problem, and then they can be templatized and shared with anyone. So this is an old one. It's basically there's a method by Randy Ingebrigtsen for writing books where you basically start by writing a very simple one sentence summary, and then you expand that with like a setting that's super simple, uh, simple summaries for characters. And once you've done these, you go back to the top, and I just need to make this exist. And then you start again and take your one sentence summary and turn it into a one paragraph summary, etc., etc. And then you work your way through this until it's a huge, an entire book. So inside this one, all I made was I made an app which seems to be broken by now, which kind of prompted you to make better one sentence summaries. Yeah, it does matter. This is an old AI app, but an actually fun one is this one, which is based on a prompt by Robert Scoble. It's called Council GPT. So basically, what you do is you just input any subject. In this case, I've put growth hacking, and you just click Council GPT, and first it generates. Well, basically, it tries to sum up all the different points of views a rational person might have around this subject. And then it makes personas for each of these points of views. So for this one, you have different kind of you have innovators, skeptics, strategists, etc. And then hey Theo, and then you take each of them and basically make a hey guys um, like a debate where they all kind of chip in their 5 cents about the subject at hand, and then in the end, you get a summary of the discussion between all these people and what they said. So I shared this with Robert Scoble, and he thought it was very cool. It was actually his first time seeing Tana in action. Um, but that's kind of how this idea of making these AI apps started for me. This is a template that I think I've shared on Twitter, so anyone can install. But I'll show it like super quickly. Um, Yeah, here's the command. I'll start there. So I've basically exposed all the prompts in a table here so that you can change them at will. But they all live inside the council GPT command. And this is typical of my GPT setups. So first, I just empty the fields that you are going to be using, and then I set the model field, just make it exist. I don't empty it necessarily. And then I first run one prompt, which ends up in the point of view. And most of you are probably already familiar with this, but instead of basically setting the model, hard setting it in the commands, we forward this field to a field on the super tag, excuse me, on the super tag node that we are running this command on. In this case, we've made a field called model. So just going back here, let's see. Yeah, so if I tag something cancel GPT, you can see that the model field is automatically set to GPT-4. So I can go and change this in the tag default. If I don't have access to GPT, for instance, I could set this to default to 3.5 turbo. But also, if I just want to run something quickly, I can change it on this particular instance. So if I wanted to run, for instance, like cars, and I said I don't have time for GPT-4, I could set GPT 3.5 specifically on this node, and now the points of view should be generating really fast. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Points of view runs, and the output of that goes into a field that the personas command looks at, and then again, the model is set by the lookup field, and then the council, which is the actual discussion, is done the same way, and then you end up with a summary bot, which is super basic stuff. It's basically just looking at the different the subject matter, the personas, the discussion, and there's a super basic prompt here. So whoopsie daisies. Yeah, this is a risk of showing anything around API requests live, is that something is going to go wrong. We all know this. But yeah, so we've been given some 3.5 has given us some personas for this discussion around cars. And yeah, the discussion has failed, unfortunately for us. But that's fine. It's just an example. So yeah, Council GPT was one of these command setups that I did, and then I made just for a laugh, I made this kind of streamline command for presentations for Stian when he was working. This one isn't very advanced either. You basically in parallel we run three commands where the AI is given the role of a world-class presenter. It's given a wide array of notes around the subject, just all the notes that you have on something. And your goal is to propose a streamlined presentation of the important points. And then it just uses syscontext to get everything here. We use the same technique of forwarding the model field. And then we send this to alternative 1 with a low temperature. And then I'm pretty sure like these different alternatives are just different temperatures doing the same thing, sending to these different fields. And then once you have these three like commands finished in parallel, then a new AI persona comes in and gives feedback to the three presentations, and then based on this feedback, there's a kind of world class presenter bot that comes in and makes the final draft for our presentation with a low temperature again. So it's not very advanced. The only thing that this showcases differently than the Council GPT is this idea of running some things in parallel, which was Emmanuel. Emmanuel, I can't remember your last name, but Emmanuel did this for his Smart GPT, where he was running like three alternative explanations of, no, three alternative attempts to solve like a logic puzzle, and then you have like the reviewer going through finding the best one, and then like a final bot to kind of give you the answer. And with the right types of prompts, this is although it's not as efficient of just running one prompt, this is a great way of improving the answers from GPT. Have you all played with these types of prompts with GPT? Have you tried setting up these sequences where instead of just asking a question once, you basically templatize like a series of steps you want the AI to go through? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Emmanuel Galanos. Yeah, super smart guy. A lot of fun to see him. The story of Smart GPT was basically, I think we both saw the same article, but he's based in Australia, right? So when I read it in the morning, I put a challenge out in the Slack community to build a bot around Smart GPT, and I think it was like 5 minutes away from publishing it because he started half a world ahead of us. A lot of fun. Yeah. So that was a rundown of some of the things I've been working on, and today I'm working on in main these three here. These are the ones I want to get through. Book writing GPT. Um, has a tricky problem that I want to solve. So I may or may not do it today, depending on how confident I feel. It's basically this is a screenshot from I can't remember the name of the tool. I'll find it in a second. It's a story writing tool where you basically put in a brain dump and you set the genre and you set the style, and then the AI generates a synopsis which you can rewrite, and then it goes ahead and generate characters from that synopsis, etc., etc. And like the idea is that you start with just a sentence and you end up with a whole book. I saw this on Twitter, and it was someone called Moritz Kremb who put this out there, and it's from pseudowrite.com, this tool. And I just thought this looks exactly like stuff that we do in Tana. So I set up this thing here. And this is a bit broken, and that's just because I've been using a future kind of UI of Tana, so it doesn't look very pretty in like the old version. But basically, let's say we make a new book called The Great Bangsby. We call this author, we tag with author GPT, and then we say this is a classic tale of revenge between two best friends, one noble, impoverished actor gone to work at a tech company, the other a successful actor, but through nepotism. And this is not a real story, I promise. Let's see. Yeah, so I put this in. So I'm just a brain dump, and I can't spell. Successful. And this is let's call it just a thriller. And it's in the style of Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide. And then basically now, having done this, we do the same kind of thing that we've talked about before. We don't just make this into one prompt. When I click generate synopsis here, first the AI is doing a first pass attempt at writing this well. So this field here is just, you never see it unless you go looking for it. And in a future version, I'll make it so after it's done, it's deleted. It's not even a part of like the super tag. You'll just add the field to do this thing, and then after it's been used as input, you just delete the field again. But basically, this runs, and it looks like this. You, I've exposed. You are a competent author. Your task is to generate a succinct synopsis, etc., etc. A lot of stuff about how to write well, and I know this can't be easy to read on screen, so I apologize. But if you want the actual prompt, just let me know and I'll send it. And then I just give them the idea dump, the genre requirements, style, and then again, don't don't be verbose. Don't tell me about the story, because GPT has a tendency to say the story is a beautiful tale of this and that, and in the end they all learn blah 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 blah, which is not what we want, right? We want it to tell the story. Don't tell me someone is smart, just show me they're smart. Same thing when we give like real writing advice. High temperature, lookup field, the same technique. And this is done. So we have James. Oh wow, the tech company that James works for develops cutting edge AI technology that makes deep fake videos. How exciting. And then, yeah, anyways, long story. And now, after this one is done, there's a synopsis editor which is running basically a similar prompt, just editing this story for like writing techniques, and then it's going to give us our synopsis at the end. and then we can give it like any input we want. Like we can say like add more cowbell, literally, and then uh, because this is the yeah. So here we the right. There's something wrong with the synopsis right now. It seems to just want to rewrite, just repeat what the first pass writer did. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, so there's some prompt engineering that's needed right here. But anyways, we're going to be given the final synopsis now in a second, and once it's done, just going to do two things at the same time. So, David, Lossa, Theo, Bar, have you played with these sequential prompts? Have you done anything with this, or is like this type of writing not interesting to your workflows? Because obviously this is like it's even the like explore subject GPT stuff is only interesting to the degree it's interesting for you to see like a bot talk about a subject. You can make some okay output, but most of this is, in the end, it's pretty trite. It's not amazing. Anyways, we have a synopsis. I think it's pretty much identical to our first outing here. But what we can do now is just we'll generate characters. We will. Oh yeah, there's been a bug. There's this somehow the model has jumped out of its field. It's very strange. Working with the insiders build of Tana means a lot of strange things happen all the time because we're working with, someone has to do a new release with a fix for something and that breaks something else. But this was a strange one. So just what happened is just the model field jumped out of the lookup field setup that we had. But yeah, we'll generate the characters now and then rewrite the synopsis with more cowbell. And again, we have to go inside here. Just tab move the model. Bizarre. Right, so now we can rewrite the synopsis as well. Yeah, I think you're right, Theo. There's like, I think working like this is incredibly powerful. My the reason I'm like after just showing this, and I apologize if showing like something that's already built isn't as interesting, especially when it's just this kind of blob of text. But the reason I wanted to build this today is that my co-creator for the podcast that we have, Snip Snap Snooter, he had the idea because he needed a new script this week, and he sat down and did like the stuff that we all did a couple of months ago when ChatGPT was launched, where he basically tried to make ChatGPT do the work of like first writing something and then rewriting it, etc., etc. So my thought is just I can probably make this a lot better if I do it now and make it inside of Tana for him than he can do with ChatGPT just by setting up these prompts for him beforehand. Yeah, so you can see the synopsis editor is running again. What that means is that our rewriting has gone through the script and just added more cowbell. Literally, here, James is doing a cowbell performance in a controversial deep fake of his rival. And yeah, so like anything you put in here, you can make the AI accept. And it's probably also generated. Yeah, it's right now is working on making the characters for the script as well. So that's Author GPT, not released yet because There's one step remaining, and that step is kind of tricky because everything so far is stuff that we can just add um, in fields. But the next thing that we need to do is, see here. Oh yeah, and this is just forwarded fields and stuff. Yeah. So what this book does after all this is that it makes an outline, and then you basically get chapters for the book that you can do new AI stuff on, like chapter by chapter, to write it out, get all the beats placed and everything. And like I know how to do it, but I haven't done it yet. What you need to do is you have to make like one command more that sets a field here. This field is going to be called outline here, and then after that, you're going to have to make a new like the next bot, the breakdown bot, is going to have to have like the tactic it's going to have to use is output as children. We'll do exactly the same thing, but the output strategy just has to be child like this. And then you'll have all your fields here with all your input, etc. And then you'll just have like children of your main book being the chapters of the book. And then we set up a system to automatically tag those nodes with chapter for AutoGPT or whatever. And then we can run like commands on all children from the parent node, which does all the stuff for the chapters. So I haven't done it. It's just work. It's not difficult. It's just has to be done. Haven't yet. Yes, the what you said there is exactly right. This idea of just making this once, and as you can see here, like every time I've shown off this book writing prompt, I've just made a new book to show it again because it's so simple, and you get all these buttons every time you tag here. Excuse me. Oh, apologize. It's a late night session for me. But okay, let's just get down to brass tacks. Excuse me. The first thing I want a fairy tale that has some fields. The first field should be something like um, idea input. So I'll just tag all of these with a fairy, which is difficult using external keyboard, but yeah, just so I know that these fields belong to this app. Okay, so we'll have like an idea input, and we'll have let's see here, uh, length or chapters. And that will be an options field, and data type options, and I'll actually have to configure it, and we'll say one chapter, 2 chapters, 3 chapters. We'll lock these, and I'll unlock them, and I'll add the fairy. Like making these characters appear in your like the nodes for your templates. Don't have to be emojis, but just basically making sure that it's very easy for you at a glance to see which fields are native to like an app you're going to share through Tana templates is just super smart to do, because otherwise you'll yeah, anytime you basically say something like description, right? If it's just added a description field, uh, you'll basically get up all fields with description that you've used all of your workspace, and they'll be set to hide. They'll have like loads of settings and dependencies and stuff that you don't want to mess with. And especially when you want to share templates, adding stuff outside the app. I'll just show this now. If I wanted to share this as a template, like you can see, this links outside. It links to like this snowflake stuff, and it's just messy. So just making sure that everything that you're going to share lives inside the template itself is very smart. Yeah, feel I don't think the books that Author GPT generates, until I make like the craziest prompt, I don't think the books are going to be good. Let's just say that straight from the top. I think you can massage these prompts to make quite good stuff, but I think we're some model generations away from making a good book because you're not going to make a coherent whole. Like even though you kind of like you take the output from the main kind of outline, synopsis, and you summarize it so you can include it in every prompt for every chapter. And you have like a style guide that you set at the top. Like this is an example paragraph. These are how lines are written, etc. Like dialogue is written, stuff like this. There will be such differences because it's inspired by the entire internet. Um, so until we have like token windows of 150, 200,000 tokens, but at the same time, we have the power of the GPT style models and not just these open source ones, which are not as good, but bigger token windows. We're not going to make good books, long story short. But yeah, you could output like 10 books at the same time. And because all these prompts are sequential, like if you just have a good enough set of like API connections to OpenAI, yeah, I could set up 5 book ideas, and then when I click the first button, it just goes through all the steps one after the other first, breaking it down, rewriting the synopsis, making the character, then the outline, then each chapter, then breaking down each chapter into breaks, and then fleshing out each break, etc., etc. Maybe that's a fun thing to do on a stream once. Just write 10 books at once, and then just output everything into Tana. No, there's no such thing as Tana Publish. But if there was, just publish like 10 different books. A man can dream. Okay, yeah. So we have. Why can't I set this one? Let's see. Oh, did I delete them? Yeah, that's right. That's completely redacted. There's no such thing as Tana Publish, and it never will be. Okay, so yeah, we put in an input, and then we're going to have a first pass, and we'll say this is a system field. Don't touch this. And then we'll have a first pass editor. And again, this is a systems field. Don't touch this. And then we're going to have yeah, we'll use the same terms. We'll call this a synopsis field. Synopsis. All right. And this is an input field. This is an input field. Just always label your workspace. And this is an output field. Okay, we're starting to get ready for a command, right? Yeah, there's some more stuff we could add here, but let's just start simple. Let's just configure this node and just add a command to it. And the first one, we'll call it FairytaleGPT. GPT. And so we've set it up to have at least a couple of passes here straight from the top. And so we'll say the first thing FairytaleGPT does is, and again, like we'll add a little fairy here. The first thing it does is first pass. So you may know this, but you can't add several instances of the same command in the same space. So I can't have ask AI 2 times in a row. You see, this is getting weird, right? So that's one of the reasons why we hide them inside these subcommands. So basically, this master command calls this subcommand, which again calls ask AI. But we'll make it do something more. We'll say this first pass also calls the set field values, and it sets first pass to empty. So basically, once you run first pass, it gives itself room to write the first pass again. And inside here, we'll have to, yeah. This is going to be like a prompt engineering stuff, so I'll be very like quick about it. But you can imagine that we, in the long term, we'll have to make some like really good prompting for this. Here we'll call this model. This is options. If I go too fast or too slow, let me know. And this has to be exactly like it is in the model options. So I might have to go back and check this. Let me just double check how these looks. So set the first temperature to 1, super high temp, and then model to use, and it looks like this. So if we go to model and we configure this, it looks like that, right? Or it looks like this. Or it looks like that. Yeah, that's fine. We don't include auto-collected values. Okay. Now we remove this field and we say, what was it called? Lookup field? Huh. Called lookup? Yeah, lookup field. Ooh. And then we look up the model field here. Right, there we go. Okay, so now we've set, we set the model to look at the model here so that we can have like general settings for every FairytaleGPT node that we tag. That's good. And we set the temperature to 1, and the target node for this one is obviously first pass. And now it's just a matter of writing the prompt. And we'll make this super simple. I'll expand later. Role, you are author, children, you are an children's author, expert system. You are designed to write compelling children's stories, making modern, fleshed out narratives from old fairy tales and fables. And then we'll actually do this, and then I can use this role node in my settings page. So inside here, I'll make a settings page, prompts, then I'll just add a role here for now. And then we can just play with it here. And then we'll do task. And again, we'll copy this out here. Cool. Task. You have been given a commission to, yeah, you are to flesh out a compelling children's tale of a synopsis for a compelling children's spoken word audio book based on the input given. And then we'll just do this input. Yeah. The story is to have 1, 2, or 3 parts. Adjust the narrative and dramaturgical structure. Is that all right? Dramaturgical structure to fit the given number of chapters. Input, and then we'll just basically put in this here, right? And this, if you don't know, just says if there is input, it'll be here. If not, ignore it. And number of chapters. And we have to have that. Output. Okay, so we've set our first GPT here. Let's just run this. We'll say 2 chapters, and we'll set the model to 3.5 for now. And the idea is Hercules meets Red Riding Hood in a motorcycle convention. And then we have 2 chapters for this, and now we run FairytaleGPT. Okay, so yeah, the first pause is running. This is working fine. Excuse me. We set GPT 3.5, so this should be quite fast. Oh, that's such a good idea, Theo. Like there are some good spaces online for finding prompts. Like you have these services, and I know about them because, like when trying to pitch Tana to creators, they tell me about their great service for finding prompts and apps, and some of them say, and this is where you should pay us to appear. But basically, like places where you can find good prompts. But we should definitely have a prompt generator prompt, enhanced prompt, and then just give it some examples of like prompts we know give good outputs, and then whatever you write, it can just improve and such a great idea, Theo. And I could even set some standard fields there, right? I could even say like, here's where you'd reference a field. It looks like this, dollar sign, like squiggly brackets, and then Like the output prompt would even tell you where to kind of set your fields in place. That's actually like that's a useful app. Okay, so yeah, here you go. We have chapter one, Hercules goes to the motorcycle convention, and Red Riding Hood goes for a ride. Now, one thing you can note straight away, it's way too short. It's not like a full dramaturgical journey. There's no arcs. We would have to massage this to make sure it gives us arcs, make sure it closes each narrative loop. Da 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 da. Doesn't matter for now. Let's just delete this. This, by the way, what I'm doing that right now, like deleting, is so much faster once you've made something a super tag, because it'll just recreate the fields. So let's just make Fairytale GPT with the fairy. Do I have a fairy ready? Done. So let's just do this. Fairytale GPT. And I'll remove this from here. Configure Fairytale GPT, and that's where we add the commands. Now I can promote all these fields to the super tag, which means that if I wanted to delete a field, I could just delete here, even though there's 50 paragraphs here, and it'll just make like the field fresh again, quick and easy. Okay, so we have our first pass. Now, you probably saw that inside here, there's a couple of things I always set. I set the temperature, the model is to look up field stuff. I set like a couple of things like the role shouldn't change. So instead of making a new command and doing this and copy pasting, we always just duplicate the command first, and then we just change the stuff that we need to change, like this, and then target node is that, and temperature is such, and role is fine. Task is you are to carefully review a first draft of synopsis for our children's. Uh, with the goal of guiding the author to write clearer narrative arcs and better stories. Give succinct feedback for this draft. And then the author was given number of chapters they were told to make. We'll call this parts. Told to divide the story into. Actually, it has to be episodes. And the draft text. Then we just copy first pass. And we're done. Good lord. Like this. We have set the temperature, we've set the model, we're happy with this. Yeah. Okay, so we've deleted the first pass. We've set it to 3.5 turbo, so this is fast, right? Oh yeah, sorry, we have to set the chapters again. Let's say 3 chapters. And while this is running, we could just look at the prompt workbench here so that we can set this up so it's easier to test this later. Yeah. Okay, so the editor has gone through it. Now we just recopy the first one actually. We say this, we call this um, final pass, and then we set the synopsis field to empty, and we set the target to the synopsis field again. Yeah, and we have a high temperature again, maybe not as high as the first time. We look up field for the model, and then we say this is the role, sure. You have been given feedback from your editor, your great editor. Incorporate this feedback. Think carefully on how to make the story better based on the editor's notes. Write a new draft of the text. So input, number of chapters, your first draft. Do we have it here? Your editor's notes. And that should do it for now. Let's try and run this entire series. And obviously, like we could do the thing that we did for I showed earlier. We could have the first pass could be um, run in parallel, and then I could duplicate the first pass, right? Basically, say run this command and then this command, and then call it first pass 2, 3, and then like 3 alternatives. Choose the best one, and then edit that could be the prompt for the editor, and just really make sure we get like at least something more interesting at the end. But right now, let's just keep this simple. So when I click Fairytale GPT, based on the fact that we set the fields to empty, first this will empty, but this one still lives. And then this one is going to empty the second this one finishes. And then same thing for the synopsis. Now, let's just go inside the Fairytale GPT because we want some things like these two. We're not really going to see, right? So we should say set hide field conditions to always, so we don't have to see them. And could say set hide field conditions when value is default for model, and then we say the default for this model is 3.5 turbo. So like this will stay hidden, excuse me. But like for use, we'd probably set this to GPT-4, right? Excuse me. But for now, and I'll change that in this settings once I want this to be evolving into a usable app. But now this is hidden, and the second you actually want a fairy tale to be written with a different model, say you have a lot of text for it to look into, then you could go here. Okay, yeah, so we have this thing set up. Um, that is the first synopsis for the fairy tale. Now, the next step, and I'm just going to delete this for now. I'll delete all these three passes. So the next step I need to set up is to make this real, is I have to make a Norwegian version of this because the output has to be Norwegian. And then I need to make a node where you can see the comparisons of an original fairy tale and the output that I want. So I'm going to give it a style guide basically. I'm going to say here are 5 paragraphs from classic fairy tales, and here's how they look in the finished version. And then I'm going to have that baked into the prompt in one space so you can always kind of look at it. And I'll make a settings page here where you can kind of say, here is the data I'm feeding the prompt to write this better. And then yeah, that's how we're going to fine tune this to make it Norwegian. But just for fun, let's just see with this the entire prompt in English. Let's just do this. We'll just add a write everything in Norwegian prompt. Let's see what happens. I'm going to do that throughout the series. And I'm sure GPT-4 will be better at this. I know it's better at languages. Now, I'm just going to keep to the fast model just for a laugh. Oh yeah, I need to set how many chapters. It's just one chapter. I get this every time. But yeah, Theo, this is for you. So I know I'll do that later. Okay, so the first pass and first pass editors have been run on this. I'm very excited to see if this is going to be Norwegian or English. Place your bets. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely some Norwegian. Yeah, fine. We can make this work. Awesome. Okay, so we can just tell it in one sentence. This makes it easier because that means I can just make this like fairy tale system general and English, and then just at the end of it input like, by the way, you're in Norwegian for now, and that'll make it super easy for me to kind of share this with others as well. So I think since I've spent an hour just talking through prompts, I'm gonna leave it off for now. I'm trying. This was a an impromptu trying to build live again attempt for me because I think it's so valuable both for me and yeah, probably mainly for me. But just the idea of like just working in public and showing some of the stuff because some of the things I'm doing, just FYI, are completely stupid. There's so many better ways to do this. So I just think it's such a good idea to go through these things in public and get some feedback and also just get in the habit of actually building stuff again. That's the thing. Before I joined Tana, I was building these all the times. Now I barely have the time. So consider this the first of many build sessions. The later ones will be more structured than this as well.